First Class Fatherhood. That is where Alec Lace comes in with his popular podcast.
And one of the most interesting was on a podcast.
Alec Lace interviews high-profile fathers from actors to NFL players with a vision to change the narrative of fatherhood and family life.
Joining me now, First Class Father, Kris Paronto. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Hey, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for having me. Sorry, I'm just getting done from doing therapy on my knee, and get me a little snack so I can, it's what it is, just living the dream at home, trying to eat when I can and get things done when I can before the kids come home. So
I understand that. Yeah, I'm waiting as we're doing this here. I got to go pick them up right after we're done with this. So I know a little bit about that. I appreciate you taking the time. Honored to have you on here. Let's start like this. How many kids do you have and how old are they?
I have three. Well, I say I have three. We have three. I didn't have any of them. Wife had them. So, we have 7 and 14 and a 17-year-old. So, 10-year difference, which pretty awesome. I got some good kids, a lot better kids than I was when I was growing up. My daughter's probably most like me though. So she's the pain in the ass of the family besides me.
What do you got? 2 boys and a girl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful kids.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, we got 3 boys and a girl ourselves on this side. So if you could, Kris, take a second just to hit my listeners, those that don't know, a little bit about your background and what you do.
Sure. My name's Kris Paronto. I served in the Army for a few years, about 8 years, and then I served as a government contractor and did some private contracting work for the U.S. government, various agencies. Some people out there might know, I'm wearing the shirt. Sorry for the selfish promotion. I didn't even realize that. How narcissistic am I wearing my own shirt? But anyway, I was portrayed in a movie called 13 Hours a while back, and I was part of that CIA, a team that responded to the attack there in Benghazi, Libya, and a movie was made of it. Actually, a book very well done. I thought was excellent. Mitchell Zukov helped us write it, helped the team write it, which consisted of three Marines, 2 Navy SEALs, and myself from being from 2nd Range Battalion. Lost 2 of my friends during that evening, and Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty, and had several injuries. It was publicized very much so in the media at that time. I think it was 2012 is when it happened, but 2015, 16 is when the world found out about what was going on there, what actually happened there. And then a movie was made of it, and I thought it was done very well by Michael Bay. And it's still playing. I just saw it. We have internet TV, so it's on Pluto TV all the time, which is really cool. But other than that, I'm trying to be the best father I can be. I wasn't home a whole bunch, so I'm still learning how to be a father, because that time period, I probably spent more time overseas than I did at home. Now what I do now is, you're looking at it. I'm home. I try to be the father I can by, helping out around the house. The kitchen's clean. Obviously, that's not my doing. My wife's tremendous, but I help when I can. And nowadays, my life revolves around, when I'm not out speaking, I do some public speaking from time to time. Is just being home now, trying to catch up on a lot of lost time. So that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, great stuff, and thank you for your service. And I've had a couple of your teammates on from the Benghazi incident. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a second here. But take me back, if you could, then 17 years ago. How old were you then when you first became a dad, and how did that change your perspective? And where were you at with your military career when that happened?
Wow, yeah, that actually, I just had a picture pop up on my feed on my phone, and I usually don't do much on social media when I am home, but it was the birth of my first son. It was, a 17-year-old and Christian. And that time, actually, I was in Iraq, and I just happened to get home on leave. They sent me back home on emergency leave. I was a contractor at Blackwater at the time, but still we had obligations that we had to stay there. And I remember my commander, I should say team leader, I shouldn't say commander, we were contractors, civilians. He's like, you're due here in a bit. And I said, yeah, my wife's going to be probably having our kid here soon. And he goes, you need to get home. And I'll be honest, to me, it was so focused on the mission. That was my first trip to Iraq. And when you're there, and in 2004, it was 2003, 2004, it was pretty crazy. It was the Wild West. A lot of us do, and we use that term loosely, but it really was. And the focus really at that time, especially leaving Ranger Battalion and leaving the special operations community, joining Blackwater, joining that private military community, which consisted of mainly special operations guys. Really, that focus was there. So I even said, if you guys need me, I'll stay. And he's like, he's he was older than me, had kids. I hadn't had kids. He goes, are you freaking crazy? I said, this is your first kid. You get out of here, go. And he managed to get me a flight home. And I remember I got home and I made it home in time. I think it was 24 hours. And my wife, my wife's stronger than I am. So I'm not trying to offend any of you women out there. I'm just saying she's stronger than I am. So I think that my son wanted to come out and she was holding him in. Like, no, you're not coming until your dad gets home. And got home, I actually got to see my son, born. And it was amazing. I still have the picture of, and I still remember when he was born and how I felt. I was like, it was, wow, I'm glad I'm home. It's a very surreal experience. It is. And amazing, but also scary a little bit, but also unsure because you don't know. I don't know how to be a dad. So but I remember I even still have the photo of me picking him up, and the nurse came in to check him out, and he started crying. And I remember my feel. I got protective. I was like, oh, what are you doing to my son? And she's just doing what she needs to do. And I remember I'm over there next to her because he's bawling and I think she's hurting him, and I'm starting to get pissed off. But she's just doing what she's doing. And I remember I actually held him up while I think she was taking something off his foot from the birth. They had to do something to him, and he opened his eyes, and I was the first person he saw. And I have my Ranger P T-shirt, so it's a second Ranger. It's almost poetic. So the Ranger life is there, but now it's transitioning to being a father. So getting out of being the Ranger to now being the Lone Ranger to now being the Father Ranger. And it's so cool because I still remember him looking up at me, and now he's 17, and now he's bigger than I am. He's 6 foot. I can't mess with him anymore. But that little boy, and life did change, but it was a process for the next, and it still is a process. I'm still learning how to be a father, but I still have amazing experience. And then 2 weeks later, I'm back in Iraq for 7 more months. So I didn't see him again for a while. And my wife, and that just is a testament to how strong my wife is, because she dealt with that. And she dealt with that kind of life for the next 10 years, where I'm here home sporadically. And when I'm home, I'm trying to reacclimate to being home from being overseas. And then to, it's a testament to her, because I tell you what, it's difficult to lose a lot of that energy, that adrenaline that you have when you're overseas, and try to come home and try not to be angry, try not to be excitable, try not to have anxiety rule you when you're home. And those things that you have inside of you like that, I remember it's like a volcano, they're going to come out. And I not that I was abusive, but the anger like that would come out, where now, and that's the testament of learning how to be a father. Now I can, all right, calm down, where I couldn't do that then. So but again, that was the start of it all right then at that moment. And that was still amazing. I'm blessed that God allowed me to have that picture. I think it was her mom that took that picture. I still have it. It still touches me every day.
Amazing. And it's one of the many reasons why I have so much respect for the men and women that serve in our military, because I can't even begin to imagine the dichotomy that goes involved for the men and women that serve and their spouses who are home supporting them. Yeah. God bless you guys for what you do. And as I mentioned, I had both Oz and Tig on the show here. Also, I had Max Martini and Dominic Fumusa on the podcast.
Oh, did you really?
Played them. So I'm familiar with this. I enjoyed the book. I think a little bit. The movie was fantastic. I think the book gives you a little bit better insight as far as the Feb 11, and you can kind of understand a little bit more who's who. But what was the experience like for you? I mean, obviously you're focused on the firefight and everything going on, but as a father, being in that kind of battle, were there times where there was a lull in the action where you're like, holy cow, I might not get home. What is that like as a dad to be in a conflict like that?
As you get older, and as if it would have happened earlier in my career, earlier when I first went to Iraq, something like that happened, I probably would have handled it a lot differently. I probably would have been worried, and I can't say yes or no, because I went through a lot in Iraq and Afghanistan, but Benghazi was a little bit different because there people responded. I always knew somebody was coming if I needed help there. nobody was. And to come to that realization earlier in my career, it might have been where it was like, well, let's give up. I hope I wouldn't have acted like that earlier in my career. I know I didn't act like that later. So it's a blessing that Benghazi happened later, because as it did, I was able to focus on what was going on around me. Not that I didn't remember. There was a lull in the action. I remember specifically, it was between 1 and 3 a.m. in Benghazi time. There was a lull. And it was, if you watch the movie, between that first and second firefight at our place. And we're sitting in lawn chairs, me and Boone up there, and we're talking, and I remember thinking about God and have I lived right, and am I doing the right things? And I did say, if I, as long as I'm doing the right thing, God will take care of me. I really do believe that to this day. But I also did think about my family, and we didn't put it in the movie. The book, I think we did get in the book, because you can put more in a book. You got time to put it in there. Movies, you don't. But I thought back to my family, and all I thought was, okay, what was my last conversation? Did I tell my wife, and I had 2 kids at the time, I didn't have a third. I said, did I tell them I loved them? And I did. And honestly, I was like, okay, I don't need to worry now. There's no worry, that there's no burden, there's no regret. If I die here, and I don't want to, I'm going to fight my ass off. I don't want to, but if I do, they know I fell. And I've actually incorporated that into talks I do with corporate talks, is that what I learned from that, and the lesson I learned from that, is you never leave the house angry. It doesn't have to be war. You just don't walk out of that door ever angry. Last thing you need to say is I love you, because God forbid you're ever in a situation that you might not come home, or a situation where you're under duress, a lot of stress. You're going to think that. What's the last conversation I had? And if it's a good conversation and you left, then they know how you felt. You can deal with the situation in front of you. You don't have to worry about that. That's one less stressor in a situation of stressors that are everywhere that you have to be burdened by. And it was awesome, because I didn't worry about them the rest of the night, and I was able to focus and finish on doing what we were doing.
Incredible. When was the first time you had the opportunity to speak to your wife or your kids after the incident? What was that like the first time you got to see them again when you got home?
They on the airfield. That's why I thought the movie, and we were consultants on 13 Hours, so I thought it was so great. Where you see the scene where John Krasinski's calling home to his wife, we all had that different scene. Now, we only showed Jack's scene in it, but that was all of us. Mine was the same thing. I was on the phone. We had these burner phones we could use. I called and I said, hey, you might going to see something on the TV. What happened? I can't talk about it. She knew where I was at, so I didn't need to let her know. I said, don't worry, I'm still alive, but we lost 2. I didn't say their names on the phone, but because I didn't know who was listening, because they were local phones. But I said, we lost 2. I'll talk to you again when I can talk to you. And I don't know. I said, I don't know when that will be, but it should be here soon. But I'm safe. And you're not telling a fib, but you're kind of telling a half truth, because we hadn't really got out of Benghazi yet. But you don't want to. I don't want to worry her. And for all intents and purposes, I did feel safer at that point in time than I did the whole other rest of the morning and night. So it was trying to hold it together, getting choked up because, we had just lost Tyrone and Glenn, and they're still there. I had just looked at the ambassador as well. I had just ID'd his body. So everything's starting to sink in. But yeah, the first person I wanted to call was my wife. And that's how it always was. I mean, in the movie, if people don't watch if you haven't watched it, they do watch it. When you watch the scene from John Krasinski, who played Jack Silva, our SEAL Team 5 buddy, when he called home to his wife, every one of us had that call. So that is pretty much it. And it's hey, I'm all right, but we lost some friends, but I'll be home soon. But you keep it succinct and short to the point, because the phones you're using aren't encrypted and you just don't know who you're using. So even in that situation, you still have to think tactically, but you're trying to be emotional and trying to not worry them, but you're still, your mind is just going 8 million miles an hour, and you haven't slept. I hadn't slept since 2 nights prior. So you're just working on vapors, but it still touches me. In fact, the movie came on last night. I still watch it from time to time. And whenever I see that scene, I do cry. I do. I can't, to this day, I still, because I think of Ron, I think of Ron and how I'm home and he's not able to be with his family. And I feel happy. I'm crying because I'm sad, but also I'm very happy that I was given the opportunity to get out of there and be sitting here. So it's hard, bro. But that that scene is perfect. I still love it. And I know I'm going rambling on about it, but it's because as we're talking, I'm still even remembering sitting on the tarmac, calling my wife and just still taking in everything that's around me. I still get chills talking about it.
Wow, unbelievable. And obviously the movie you're talking about, 13 Hours,
Yes.
Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, the Michael Bay film. Obviously, if you haven't seen it, I encourage everybody to go check it out. And I think your guy there, Pablo, really stole the show. I mean, he was really, I don't know if he's a father. If he is, I got to get him on the show here. But
You do, bro. If you've had Dominic and Max, you got to get Pablo. Actually, Pablo is a great father. He would come by when the movie was going on. We haven't talked in a while, but I still consider us friends, and I think he would do the same. But he has two sons, and they would come when we lived in Omaha. They would come in and they would stop by, and he never wanted to stay. He's still a Canadian granola eater. I'm sorry, Pablo, but you are. So he always wants to stay his camper in our front driveway, which is fine with his kids. But him and his kids, and my kids at the time, him and my oldest son is 17. At that time, he was 11 or 12. He has a son that's similar age. They would play the Battle of Benghazi around the house. So he would be a tremendous person to have on, a great father. And my experiences with him, we are still friends. I would still consider us friends, and I still admire the heck out of him. And he did it, knocked it out of the park. I thought he did excellent, portrayed me perfectly. I was very happy with all.
Yeah, he crushed it for sure. Now, obviously, your little ones are too little, but has your 17-year-old son, has he seen the film? Have you watched it with him? What's his kind of take on everything? And what are his questions that he has for you when he watches it?
Not anymore. I think when it came out, the big premiere was at Cowboys Stadium. It was an awesome premiere. I think that, I think
40,000 people, right?
Yeah, it was tremendous. And of course, because of the subject matter and because we were so damn politicized in this world, a lot of people didn't know, even though it was on ET and it was a lot of exposure. I still think it wasn't pushed out to people that probably need to see it. But that being said, the experience there was amazing. And why I'm talking about that is because my son, he was 17 now, help me out. He was 10, 11 at the time. He's watching it. He knows his dad. He knows what I'm doing. He doesn't know, but he knows. He knows I'm always gone. He knows that I'm fighting somewhere. He's not oblivious to it all. There's a scene in the movie, and I know this is a father podcast, but I'm going to tell you, Damon, because I thought it was hilarious, where we talk about me chubbing stuff. It's a Ranger thing. I chubbed this guy. When that scene came on, my son, I remember I was sitting here. He's sitting just with a couple of his friends, with his nephew that came, my sister's son, and some of the other family members' kids are up there. And when he said, I remember he looked back at me and he smiled because he's like, "Yep, that's my dad." And as much as he likes to, I think he doesn't want me to think that he cares about it all. He does. His uniforms that he wears, they all have the number 13 on them, which makes me so proud. I was like, the first time I saw him play, I was like, wow, he's wearing 13. He knows. I don't need to say anything. He knows what's happening and he knows what's going on. But at that movie where he turned around and gave me a smirk when Pablo was talking about me chubbing things, I knew he got it. And I'd say that did touch me. It was funny. It made me proud to be his father even for something ridiculous, because I knew he paid attention, even though he may not give the impression that he's caring. He does. And of course, tremendous. He does now, of course. Tremendous.
I know you said, or Pablo said in the movie there, that you had to take a crap since the beginning of this thing. Was that true? Was that really what happened?
Yeah, I had a turtle head poking out from about midnight to 5:30. And I did. And I couldn't believe they put it in the movie. I mean, it's in the book, but yeah, actually it was. I still remember getting pissed off because all the Delta guys came in, Bub's team came in. I was calling on the radio, "Hey, I need guys, somebody needs to come up here. I need to take a dump. And nobody would come relieve me. And finally, Boone, he's on building C, I'm on A at the time. He just yells at me. He goes, "Dude, I got your sector. Go take a crap." And I was the fastest crap. We didn't put that in the movie. It's fine. I think it's in the book a little bit. I'm going to go to his detail, but I will. I'll give it to you. I shimmied down that ladder. I ran in there. I dropped trout. Didn't wipe a thing. Came back up, and I had an itchy butt for the rest of the night. But my son, that's what's funny is my son and my daughter know that, and they laugh. I mean, they like, "Oh, Dad, you're so gross." But that's what makes it cool about being a dad. It's like, Yeah, they're laughing at me. They're being how kids should be. They're like, Dad, you're disgusting. But they know that that's me, and that makes me feel like at least they know their dad, and at least I know them. And
it makes you realistic too, Kris, because it's like some of the things we don't think about in war or in battle, we don't think about. These are things that actually happen, so it's so realistic that is the case,
It's human. It gives perspective, and it tells people, hey, guys that are in war, we're not any different than anybody else. We crap, we get itchy butts, we talk a lot of junk during, we're nothing special at all. We go through the same bodily functions that everybody does, even during combat.
Well, I want to change course here just a little bit, just because as we're recording this today, there was a shooting at the University of Virginia. A football player shot and killed 3 other football. They locked the college down. We're seeing more and more of this. Yeah, so it was another one of these shooting drills that happened. They locked the school down the whole bit, and it's one of parents' biggest concerns, even at the high school level, at the college level. I just wanted to kind of get what advice you have for parents that are sending their kids to school if something like this happens. How can they keep themselves protected and safe on campus, in the world we live in today?
Well, I think I think when, and this isn't my line, it's from another movie, but I think when sir and ma'am left the country, or we quit telling kids to say sir and ma'am, I think the rest is soon to follow after that. And obviously we're seeing that now. We took integrity, we took morals out of schools, we took the prayer out, we took, the ability for parents to discipline. And I do feel that has a lot to do with what's going on. I know people want to say it's the gun. Guys, I've been around guns forever, and the last thing I'm going to do is go in there and shoot anybody up. It's the mental state, and it's the lack of values we have nowadays. And with that sort of thing there, what can parents do? Well, teach your kids values, show them discipline. Social media, we quit seeing that. I'd be shocked. I don't know what happened there, but every shooting prior to that, and I put money on it here, that there was probably some social media manifesto post or something that had to do with social media before he did it. And I think social media is not, granted this, we're doing it here, so I'm being a hypocrite a bit, but I do think social media has a huge part of these shootings, because there's always some play in it. And social media has put the place of parenthood, has actually taken that place, and it's taken the place of faith and religion. And I do think that is a big part of it too. We've got to instill religion back in the family. We got to instill just the core family values. That's simple. I know it sounds so, but it is that simple. And parenthood, teaching kids right or wrong, and you don't have to. I was a kid, so I didn't like when my parents shoved God down my throat, but they did it. They did it, but they did it to a point also where they finally laid off as I got older. But I still knew what it was. I knew what commandments were. I knew what right or wrong was. And we still have to have more of that, and the ability to talk about God here. I think that needs to be there with the kids as well. My kids have gone to Christian schools, so they do know that, and also they know that they do know what God is. They do know what the commandments are. They do know right or wrong, and that is where it starts. In my opinion, it's the installation of not just the core family values, but religion as well, and commandments. Hey, this is right or wrong. And then being that parent that listens, being that parent that's it's simple stuff we've heard forever. I know you probably talk about forever too on your show, Alec. Being present, that helps. Being interested in what's going on in your kid's life. That's just being a present parent. And also being there to pick them up when they fall down, but also tell them that they can pick themselves up as well, that they're going to have to deal with obstacles, and not enabling kids where you're doing everything for them, where they don't have to solve their own problems. So it's easier said than it's easier said than done. And I'm still learning it. But I think my kids, and they're around guns a lot because of me. They've learned how to shoot. They've taken the range. They know safety. But just the warmth of this is nothing, but we're going out and shoot. This is for protection, nothing else. And I do believe they've got it in their head that they know this is not something that I'm going to use if I'm angry. This is not something I'm going to use to get somebody back if I'm angry with somebody else. It's just, this is what dad has used to protect people. This is what I would use if I need to protect my family. This is what we use when we go shoot together, and we have a good time and we smile, but it's not a tool for retribution. And that's what needs to be taught. But I think that starts with the Bible. And again, it starts with just being a good father and a good good parent and having a good spouse with you that teaches the same thing, that, you know, God's there, God's got you, God's the commandments, learn those, live by them. And then if you have issues, you know, be there so you can come talk to me, let's talk them out. And then just don't let anger and hate take over. And we don't have, with taking religion and all that out and the family core values, hate has nowhere to go anymore. We can't just try to deal with that as a family or read a passage of the Bible and understand what we're feeling. It's, let's just take it out on somebody else and let's use the worst thing we can and let's go kill the person. No, we've lost it there, and we're gonna have to figure out a way back. And the only way to do that is with family and religion.
Those are it. And you know, not only is it that our Heavenly Father's been removed from society, but the father's been removed from the home. I harp on this show all the time. We got a fatherless crisis. And this kid that did the shooting today is another kid who grew up without a father in the home. And it's always a recurring pattern that these guys that have no dad, they become very violent. Most of these guys that are locked up behind bars, 85% of the youth in our country we're filling up our prisons with fatherless kids. And when they don't have that direction and they don't find it in the military, they don't find it in a coach. And they find it in the street, man. I mean, it is wreaking havoc on our society.
Yeah, yes, sir. And that's why, again, I say be present. When I say be present, that's what I mean. And, you know, my wife and I were divorced during that whole bit after the movie came out. I mean, I was terrible. I was a terrible father. I in my opinion, in comparison to what I am now or even what I was prior, I was a terrible husband. And that was one of my worries, was how is this going to affect my kids? And of course, you know, I'm affecting my wife and making our life terrible because of how I'm acting. Eventually, I got my crap together when a Ranger buddy said, "Hey, get your crap together." I needed that tough love. And I'm glad I did, because I do think that the possibility, or that path, to use, could have went the wrong way with especially my oldest if I didn't fix myself. Now, he wouldn't do anything wrong. He was being a kid, but not having a father present to guide and do things, you know, doing the good things a father should do. I think you're right. It can lead that, and it does all the time. You'll see that 99% of the time that child will be angry and they don't have a way to figure out how to release that anger. So they go the way of the gun, let's say. Yeah. And I saw that happening with myself, dude, in my family. I'm glad God kicked me in the butt, and my wife's an angel. Glad she took me back and we reconciled. And you know, I could see the complete difference between my oldest and even my middle child when now I'm home all the time. Just, you can just tell it's happier. It's better. It is. And the grades are better. The kids are, except for my daughter who's like me, they don't talk back as much. But that's just my daughter. She's got that in me. What can you do? So yes, right. I do agree with you, brother. I do totally agree.
So important, Kris. And obviously, your speaking career has taken off. You do a lot of motivational speaking. You're involved in a lot of different projects. What are you working on right now? What's coming up next for you, for Kris Paronto?
Oh no, I'm done. I did eight corporate speaking events in the last 6 weeks, and that was my push. And that's what I do. You know, I'm one of those guys that let's get it all done. Let's get it all done so I can take a lot of time off. And that's what I did. I'm home. My thing now is, you know, I have one course here. I do teach firearms and tactics. I have one course here in Kansas here in December, but it's local, so I don't really feel like I'm working because I get to come home at night. But brother, I'm home. You're looking at it. I'm home. I'm being father. I'm playing DS with my son like I did on Smash Brothers last night. Got kicked my butt by my 7-year-old, and then being present for my 17-year-old, and which again. Now, Daddy, he's got my truck, so I can't go anywhere because, you know, hey, here, son, I'm being a dad. More than anything, my daughter, just giving her hugs, and me and her, because she's like me, we're just bantering back and forth, and I'm just happy to be home. So that's the plan for the rest of the year, is just to finally be home again and take that much needed break and that I need, so I can get recharged, but also I'm hoping it helps my family, which I know it does. And just loving to be at home and be a father and a spouse again, a husband again for till next year. And then I don't travel as much anymore because I want to be home. I miss so much time, but it'll pick up again in January, but nothing like it used to be. I'm home a lot more, which is where I want to be.
Awesome. And you know, you touched on it a lot while we were talking here, but the last thing I want to hit you with, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about to be father who's out there listening?
You know, first of all, be present. Like I say, always be present. Be at the birth. Don't be like a jackass like me. Excuse my line, but and say, "Oh, I don't need to be there." Yeah, be there. You will regret it if you're not. You'll remember it for the rest of your life. But then also, we're going to make mistakes. We're learning just as our children are learning. This thing is just be patient. I wish I had more patience back then. I wish I was able to be patient like I am now, where I could take a breath. So when you're getting angry, you feel that thing, feel the emotions boiling up. Take a breath and then address whatever situation there is out there that you have to address and discipline-wise, and still discipline. But the other thing too is just play. I regret not playing as much as I used to. If that football game's on and you want to watch that game and your son wants to go play, turn it off, go play. Because now when you're 51 like myself, I'm like, I wish I would have done that more. So like yesterday when the Cowboys were playing and I wanted to watch the Cowboys play, my son says, "Daddy, let's go play Smash Brothers." Cowboys are off. We're going to play Smash Brothers. And I'm glad I did, because I had a heck of a lot more fun playing Smash Brothers than, Cowboys lost. So obviously I had a lot more fun. But that is a huge thing, is playing with your kids and just asking to play with them. Even when they say, "No, Dad, really," especially in the iPad age, say no. Ask, just so they know that you want to be with them. And fix dinner and, and also do laundry with them. And help with the homework. And this is Christmas time. So what am I doing with my 7-year-old right now? We're doing our Santa's list. I love doing that. Oh man, what do you want for Santa? And that is so much fun. Just do those little things that I think a lot of us that don't deploy take for granted. But from somebody that missed a ton of it, don't, because I'm looking back on it now going, man, I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have, and it's not a regret. But it's just, I wish I would have had that memory. And I got a lot of great memories of me overseas, but dang it, I wish I could have had my cake and eat it too. And I wish I would have had some more of that. Don't not do those little things, because when you get older, you're going to think back. And those things you did do, they're going to warm your heart. And so when you're having a bad day, you're like, man, I remember when we went to the zoo and we were feeding those elephants together. That makes me feel good. I'm glad I did that. That's the things I remember now.
Yeah, very well said. I love the message. It's been an honor for me. I got to say, Kris Paronto, you're a first-class father all the way. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time on First-Class Fatherhood.
Hey, Alec, anytime, brother. You just let me know. God bless you. Have a wonderful holiday season, my friend. Good Christmas, too.
You do the same.
You have been listening to First Class Fatherhood. First Class Fatherhood is a family-made media podcast. Please visit www.firstclassfatherhood.com or www.familymade.com to find out more details. You can order First Class Fatherhood advice and wisdom from high-profile dads on Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Proverbs 22:6 tells us, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will never depart from it." God bless, and I'll catch you next time.